The morning sun gleamed through the tall glass windows of the Harrington estate, a place that had long been a symbol of wealth, power, and influence. Richard Harrington, a man whose name alone could move stock markets, sat quietly in his private study. Despite his billions, his eyes carried a weight few could understand. His only son, Daniel, had recently announced his engagement to a young woman named Emily Carter, and Richard was not entirely convinced that her love for Daniel was genuine. Richard had seen too many people chase wealth and status. The thought that his son might fall prey to the same fate haunted him. Daniel was young, accomplished, and endlessly trusting, but Richard, hardened by decades in the ruthless world of business, knew love could often be clouded by greed. That morning, after a restless night, Richard made a decision that shocked even himself. He would disguise himself as the estate's new gatekeeper, a poor man of humble means. From there, he could observe Emily closely, away from the shadow of wealth and privilege. When he shared the plan with his trusted butler, James, the old man nearly choked on his tea. "Sir," James said carefully, "forgive me, but this seems highly unconventional." "Unconventional, yes," Richard replied firmly. "But necessary. My son's future is at stake. I must know if this young woman loves him for who he is, not for what he has." The following day, Richard traded his tailored suits for a worn-out uniform and cap. His salt-and-pepper hair was tucked under a faded hat, and a pair of thick glasses gave him a different air altogether. Standing by the large iron gates, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a weary old man trying to make ends meet. By noon, Emily's car rolled up the driveway. Richard stiffened, his heart pounding. She was as graceful as Daniel had described, her smile warm, her eyes kind. But appearances were deceiving, he reminded himself. "Good afternoon, miss," Richard greeted in a gravelly tone. "Apologies for the delay, these gates take their time." Emily gave him a curious look, then smiled. "No need to apologize. I'm Emily, Daniel's fiancée. And you are?" "Name's Richard," he replied, avoiding her gaze. "Just started working here. They say I'm the new gatekeeper." To his surprise, Emily extended her hand without hesitation. "Nice to meet you, Richard. Must be a big place to look after." Her kindness unsettled him. Most people in her position would have brushed past a gatekeeper without so much as a glance. Yet she engaged him in conversation, asking about his family, his background, even offering him a bottle of water from her car. Over the next days, Richard watched her closely. Whether she arrived alone or with Daniel, her behavior was always consistent. She greeted him warmly, never once treating him as though he were beneath her. One gray afternoon, when the sky threatened rain, Emily stopped at the gate carrying a bag of groceries. "These are for you," she said, handing it over. "Daniel told me you're new here and probably don't have much stocked at home yet." Richard blinked, speechless. Inside the bag were bread, milk, and fruit. His throat tightened. He wanted to reveal himself right then, but he held back. The test wasn't over. That night, sitting in his study, Richard removed his disguise and stared into the mirror. His son's fiancée had treated him with a respect and warmth that no fortune could buy, yet he knew he must continue the charade a little longer to be certain. "If she is true," he whispered, "then Daniel has found something rarer than all the wealth in the world." Days passed, each one confirming what Richard was beginning to feel. Emily's kindness was not an act. Still, his cautious heart demanded absolute certainty. So he devised one final test. On the evening of a formal family dinner, when the mansion glowed with chandeliers and polished marble floors, Richard positioned himself once again at the gatehouse in disguise. Emily arrived in a simple but elegant dress, her smile bright despite the chill in the air. "Good evening, miss," Richard said softly. I don't mean to trouble you, but I lost my wallet today. I was saving up for my daughter's medicine. Do you think you could spare a little help? I'll pay you back." It was a cruel trick, but necessary. Emily didn't hesitate. She reached into her small handbag, pulled out a folded bill, and pressed it into his hand. "Please don't worry about paying me back," she said earnestly. "Just promise me your daughter gets what she needs. And if you need more help, don't be afraid to ask." Richard's vision blurred. That instant, he knew. Her voice was genuine, her eyes filled with concern. It was not a rehearsed gesture, it was instinct, pure compassion. He could no longer deny the truth. Inside the mansion, dinner unfolded with laughter and conversation. Emily chatted easily with Daniel and the guests, her presence filling the grand hall with warmth. Richard, now back in his true attire, a tailored black suit, waited until the right moment. At his signal, James tapped a glass, quieting the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," James announced, "Mr. Richard Harrington has something to say." Richard stepped forward, his heart heavy yet hopeful. Gasps rippled through the room as Emily realized it was him. Daniel rose to his feet, startled. "Father, what's going on?" Richard's voice trembled. "For the past 2 weeks, I have not been only your father. I have also been the gatekeeper at these gates." Emily's hand flew to her mouth. "I disguised myself," he continued, "because I needed to know. Too many have sought us for fortune, not love. I had to be certain you cared for my son, for who he is, not what he has." His voice cracked. "And what I saw humbled me. You shared food with a stranger, offered help without expecting repayment, and treated me with dignity when you thought no one was watching. Tonight, when I told you of a sick daughter I do not even have, you gave without hesitation." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. "So it was you," she whispered. "Yes," Richard said, his own tears breaking free. "And your compassion left me in tears. I am ashamed I doubted you, but grateful, so deeply grateful, that my son has found someone like you." Emily stepped closer, her voice shaking but steady. "You didn't need to test me, but I understand why you did. If this proves my love for Daniel, then I'm glad you know my heart." Overcome with emotion, Richard embraced her. Daniel joined them, his voice thick. "Thank you, Father. Tonight you've given me the greatest blessing." For the first time in years, Richard felt lighter. He had spent a lifetime protecting his empire, guarding against betrayal. But now he realized the greatest treasure he could give his son was not money, but the assurance of true love. That evening, laughter returned to the room, brighter and freer than before. And Richard Harrington, billionaire and father, sat with tears still drying on his cheeks, not of doubt, but of joy.